Welcome to Happy Hour with Ruth
and Roxy. Cheers.
Cheers. We're glad you're here. So we have a confession to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to move these just a little bit.
Okay.
Ooh.
We have a confession to make. We clearly didn't look at the production value of what it looked like. No, our confession is this is the second time we've taped this episode because we did it. It wasn't just last week, was it?
No, I think it was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. Sounds right.
And
we said, I walked in and I was like, I got nothing, Ruth. I got nothing. And she's like, oh, it's fine. We got things to talk about. We'll do it. And then we both, mostly me, but
no, we both ranted.
We went on a tear.
Yeah.
And afterwards we looked at each other and we're like, that sounded like more bullshit and less happy hour.
Yeah, it didn't sound happy.
No.
It was cranky. I was feeling down. Roxanne was feeling fiery. It was a whole thing.
And there was stuff going on. There's stuff going on.
There is.
We didn't need to dump that on you. So
so here we are again, and we're going to talk about some of the same topics, which were really interesting. But I think the lesson from this is we all have downtimes.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, you know what, I want to do over.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we had to do because really we want people to feel like you walk away with something positive from this, even though we'll talk about hard stuff.
Oh yeah.
But that was just like, for me, it was complainy and whiny because I felt down, and it just didn't feel like there was no sparkle at the end.
No.
Because it's okay to acknowledge the hard stuff.
Yeah. And I was depleted that week. I truly had nothing in the tank. There's just a lot of stuff going on. So, it takes a while to recover from those things, but you have to look at it and say, oh yeah, okay, that's where I'm at.
That's fair. And you have to be realistic with yourself.
Yeah.
Right. So those are our life lessons learned, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Life lessons. Did we learn or not? I don't know.
I think, what we learned was it's okay to say not good enough.
Yeah, exactly. We're not going to put anything out just to put it out.
No, that's just it. Because nobody wants to go to happy hour with people who are cranky.
Correct. Well, I'll go with you.
Yeah. Well, you don't have a choice. I just show up. But I think that's part of it, is as much as we want to talk about some of the deep stuff, we all don't we don't want a bitch session.
Nope.
Right? Is the thing, because that serves nobody, and you have other avenues for that. And anyway, so the beautiful thing is, though, because I've had the, I guess, January and February blues, because I had a few weeks of it, and we have had so many great notes.
Yes.
So your friend Leanne Edward Knowles wrote a beautiful post on Facebook about the blog post, and it was so touching and kind. And I had so many people sort of just reach out and say, "Hey, how are you? What's going on?" And it's just such a kind thing to do when somebody. But the other thing is, nobody would have done it unless I said it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's okay to be vulnerable and share, because some of the message I got were like, wow, you're usually so positive. So that kind of, and it wasn't like, well, I'm glad to see you're normal, but it was a little bit like, it gives me comfort to understand I'm not alone. Right.
Yeah. Messages of support and understanding, compassion. Yeah. Like, we are the same. And I think for a lot of you who tune in to join us, you have similar personality traits, similar interests to us, right? And we feel deeply, and it's nice to know that connects with you.
No, and we've had, I had a really good friend text me saying listening to our podcast were like the days when we would sit around at the cottage, which is really nice. And she was talking about how comforting and comfortable it was, which is really good. And we've had our friend Julie, that someday will come on as a guest, who is fabulous, who is telling everybody and their dog about us, which is really nice. And our friend Jackie, also, she's the one that brought us gifts one time, right before it, and she has been so amazingly supportive. My sister is always sending me things saying, hey, this might be for the podcast, or hey, here's something you should read because it'll show you production values, that kind of thing. And I know your sister's always commenting.
My sister, who's in Mexico right now on very unreliable Wi-Fi, I think, she always watches in. Hi, Connie. Listens in and comments. Yeah, it's lovely.
Which is really nice.
And my pal William.
Oh yes, William. We have to talk about William.
We'll talk about William later.
Yeah, we're gonna. So we've also heard from people, which is really great. And we're going to talk about our friend Beth, who is really great about sending us feedback and talking about what we talk about in the podcast. But one of the things, and we're going to talk about this later, is talking about superpowers that can sometimes be seen as weaknesses.
Ooh, yeah.
Right. And so that's a good one. We also had my friend Lyndia said, how we heal the divide. How do we do that? It's so divisive and polarized out there. Sort of how do we do it? And that'll be a big one. I think we're going to have to not do it this episode because then it comes to the what is it? What's the thing? The something of the parody of intolerance, or I'll have to get it, but it's about paradox of intolerance. And it's like, because you want to be really tolerant about everybody, but you can't be intolerant about intolerance.
You can't be tolerant of intolerance.
Sorry, yeah. So it's, thank you, because I have no words left. And then another friend, Sharon, was talking about family, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I'm not sure we're ready to go there yet. So yeah, that's a big one. And then, but the other one she had that's really interesting, especially to me, is choosing not to have children. Mm-hmm. So that's certainly one that's gone on our to-do list. And job satisfaction. How many people spend 8 hours a day or more on a job they don't find fulfilling or rewarding? Why do they stay?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big topic, because lots of people stay because they have to, right? Because it's a paycheck.
Yeah.
And so I think we talk about that because we've both been really fortunate, and we're trying to build something here that's like that. So those are the things. And then there's your friend William.
And my friend William.
Who he talked about.
He's a reader of mine. And he is like an incredibly avid, he reads so much, and he's so supportive of authors that he likes. So he always comes on and reviews my books and pitches them to other people and whatnot. But he said, let's talk about how Canadian people are so nice.
Yeah.
And he says, is it because of the climate, the water, the wide open spaces, or just all the beautiful ladies?
Yeah, which is really nice. But so William, we have a secret for you. Once a year, we all go and put all our anger into Canada geese. I said Canadian geese early, and I got smacked down by the grammar person, man. But we all put our anger into Canada geese, and then they take it forward for us, which is why Canadians are nice, because we don't have to be mean. We've got the geese.
That's right. We've got the geese.
Right. But
did I ever tell you about my brother getting attacked by geese?
No.
We lived on a farm when my brother would have been about just a toddler. He was toddling around, and we had geese, and they this is what they do when they come at you. They grab you and then they go.
Oh yeah, and they have little razors.
Yes, they're mean.
Yeah,
so poor little guy, and they grabbed his diaper. Like, yeah, it was. I mean,
he was probably traumatized.
10.
Did you
9
laugh?
or 10? Oh yeah, I'm sure I did.
Say sorry to your brother.
I'm sorry, Rick. You really, the youngest kid with 2 older brothers really suffers. Yeah. Anyway,
so 2 older sisters.
Yeah,
you're a girl. You said 2 older brothers.
Did I say 2 older brothers? A younger brother with 2 older sisters.
So it's not just me today. Okay, so I want to go back to what our friend Sharon said about job satisfaction, because you have a book to talk about.
I do.
That kind of goes to that.
I do. I have 2 books. So I will.
Workbook folks first, man. The one that goes into Sharon stuff.
All right. Okay.
There's a theme to this.
There is a theme. I'm all about bunny trails. So this book, I started reading a while back. You probably can't see because it's backwards, but it says 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals. And if you look, this is just such a great cover because it's got a banana on it in different stages. Green banana, ripe banana, overripe, and then rotting banana. 4,000 weeks. The premise of this book is that that's the average lifespan. That's a freaky thing to think about. So here's a couple of things that I highlighted in here. Because it could sound kind of dark, because you're thinking about how much time you have and how fast it's disappearing. But the book is all about learning to tolerate the discomfort of understanding that you can't do it all. You can't have it all. Once you truly understand that you're guaranteed to miss out on almost every experience the world has to offer, the fact that there are so many you still haven't experienced stops feeling like a problem.
That's fair.
Like, what a mind-bending, like we all have bucket lists, things that we want to do. And the more you think about your bucket list, you can work yourself right up into like, hold on, I got like 15 good years left. I know.
I have worked myself into a frenzy about that recently, as a matter of fact.
So another one I highlighted, when you can no longer turn back from whatever it is, a decision that you've made, anxiety falls away, because now there's only one direction to travel, forward into the consequences of your choice. And we've talked about choices before, how for everything, and I'm I'm really indecisive until
you're not.
Until I'm not. And I think it's because I like to keep my options open. I like to have that endless possibility in front of me until the time comes where it's like, well, if I don't pick, I'm going to lose everything.
Until flights start going up in price.
Yeah, that sort of thing. It's bad.
But I have to say, I'm like that about social things, because even when people I really like and want to be around are coming over, 20 minutes before they get here, I'm like, why'd I do this?
I don't even like people.
I just want to sit with my dogs and read a book. And the fact is, once they get here, it's great. But I have that where it's like, I've made a bad decision. I have not chosen wisely.
Yeah.
And then it all changes, and I have chosen wisely. But that's a weirdo, I think, introvert thing.
And knowing that that's how you work, that's what your brain tells you.
Yep.
Knowing that helps you then when you're thinking about socializing, and we've talked about this before, like, you know that you're going to go through that. So just say, yep, all right, I'm going to be really grumpy and mad as I'm putting all stuff out on the table, and my husband will be like, see, you're doing this every time, and all the things that happen, right?
Could you be talking about your husband?
I don't possibly know what you're talking about. But then knowing that you're going to get through that stage and enjoy it, and afterwards be like, oh, wasn't that great? Me and my mic. Yes. That helps you make that decision.
It is.
Right?
No, that's fair. That's a very fair point.
Okay, one other quote I'm going to read. Attention is life. Your experience of being alive consists of nothing other than the sum of everything to which you pay attention.
That's fair.
And think about the things that consume your mind, right? And is that where you want to be? Because that's where you are.
And that's like sort of being an active listener to yourself, right? Like being aware, because I think most of us have some layer of bad self-talk, and being aware, especially when it's, and I've done it recently, especially with US politics, although it's here too, is I don't listen to the news at night before I go to bed anymore because it makes me not sleep. And you have to, because my mind starts whirring around. And honestly, except for voting, I can't vote in the US, but I have no control over anything, with that kind of thing. And so you have to let some things go, because you have no control, right? And you have to admit you have no control, which I have a problem with.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yep.
Can I talk about my other book now? Yes. Do I have permission?
You have permission.
Okay.
I'm this week's producer. She could be the producer next week.
Oh, we'll see. Okay, so this is a blast from the past, a very old book called The Blue Castle by Lucy Maud Montgomery, who wrote the Anne of Green Gables series. And I have a love for Anne. I have a love for Lucy Maud Montgomery. And this book showed up in my memories, or something twigged me to reread this for some reason. And as I was reading it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is exactly what this book is talking about. The gist of this book, for those of you who haven't read it, is the story of a young woman who is given a diagnosis of 1 year to live. So this is set in whatever, the 20s or wherever she typically writes these. And she's a young unmarried woman who is 25, 30, somewhere around there. And she lives with her mother and some aunts. And the whole front end of the book, it was actually really hard for me to read this time. She's a super happy, all know Anne of Green Gables, very uplifting stuff. It's a little dark at the beginning because she is so unhappy. She's criticized constantly. She has no joy. She's teased mercilessly about being unmarried. She doesn't have any prospects for the future, because women had limited prospects then if you weren't married. And she is completely... she has nothing to look forward to. And then she finds out that she's got 1 year to live. And she says, to heck with all of you, I'm going to go out and do what I want. And she starts living. And that's the main chunk of the story, is what she does with that time. And then, of course, something else happens near the end and to resolve everything. Just a beautiful depiction of somebody who realized, you know what? I got to live now. My 40 weeks are running out.
Yeah.
So
40,000. It better not be 40.
Whatever. You and your details. You
scared me. It was like, we got things to do.
I got 52 weeks left. So what am I going to do with them? I know.
But sorry, her 40 weeks, not 40,000.
There we go.
Right.
There we go.
Okay. But I think I think that's something though. So I think we talked about it last podcast. We had a death in the community.
Yeah.
And I think when that happens to someone, I mean, I certainly wasn't close to this person, but you wave at them and when you see them and you say, hey, how are you? That kind of thing. I think that that also makes you look around you.
This was part of the reason we had to scrap our last podcast.
Yeah.
They were our next door neighbor. And, we kind of, we're not close with them, but we look after them a little bit.
Yeah. They're older.
Yeah. It was hard. It's tough.
Yeah. Nope. It was very hard. So the other thing I do want to just mention, and we'll talk a bit about this, is in the last podcast, I was so excited about Betty, my giraffe, having a calf and stuff. And it turns out from a reliable source, it was just a miscommunication.
Did she not have a calf, or did she?
No, her calf died.
Oh,
right. Okay. So her calf died just after we were there, unfortunately, and then Betty died on December 31st, 2023, and so I was thinking about that, and this was truly a miscommunication. It wasn't a lack of research or anything. It was just one of those things, but I was thinking about all the misinformation out there and how important it is, because it was a trusted source. I didn't double check. Right. And even trusted sources can get it wrong. And I think with everything out there and what's going to be coming out as the US election comes in, and we're having an election here in British Columbia, so it's going to be that. And with AI and all this stuff out there, it's like, just put on your critical thinking cap and make sure you're thinking, who's putting this out? Is the source trusted? And can I verify that? When I was at McLean's, we used to have 3 sources before we could print something.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so it can't just be one person saying something, yep. Right? You had to verify and validate things. And I think that's a really important thing, because AI is changing everything.
Yep.
And I think it's really important. So that's our public service announcement for today is just be aware that not everything you're hearing is true. Right. And not all of it is malicious. Lots of it is. But some of it is just somebody, when you were kids and you played that game, telephone. Right? Like it's stuff like that. Okay, what else?
Exactly. And that's the thing you're talking about, the sources, primary sources versus secondary sources, right? They have to be primary sources. They have to be somebody who was there, saw the thing, did the research, wrote the report, whatever. That's a primary. It can't be somebody saying, "Oh, but I heard." "Oh, but I heard." I saw, or someone told me, and so therefore.
Or I read this.
Yeah.
No, that's just it. I think it's really important. It's just really important. As I saw an AI video, and I'm trying to remember. It was a company that got scammed for millions of dollars, because a guy got a Zoom call, and this company doesn't use phone calls; they use Zoom calls, so they can just call each other all the time. And it looked like it was the CEO of the company on the Zoom. No. It was all AI.
Oh no!
Right, AI video, and they got this person, and I'm not quite sure. They must not have had good checks and balances in place, but they got this person to transfer millions of dollars out of the company. I guess it must have been somebody. So I'm assuming it's somebody in accounting, but it was like, it's like one of those things where it's like you have right now you have to question everything. And I'd rather have somebody say to me, if I say something on Facebook, and I have it because I have a lot of journalists on Facebook, or former journalists on Facebook with me. And it'll be like, hey, can you share the source? Right? Because I think we have to do this now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I hope it swings back, but I guess we don't know.
But it's not wrong for us to be challenged or pushed or like we're being forced right now to be more media literate, right? And to not take everything just based on the belief or fact or faith that somebody else said this and you trust them. It's not wrong for us to be forced into more critical thinking.
And that's just it. And I think that's sometimes what's missing in how we're taught. I mean, even at home, it goes back to the whole stranger danger thing, right? People were taught you can trust the people in your life, right? And that absolutely was not true, right? For young kids. And so it's like you should be
for a lot of young
right
kids.
like and so you should be able to say, this doesn't feel right. I need to double check this. Honestly, I've seen people that go out of their way to check prices at different grocery stores more than they'll come out and say some ridiculous thing that they got off a non-news channel that says they're news. And it'll be like, you're checking to see who's got the best price in bananas, but you can't actually check the fact that you're about to vote on. Right. And so I think it's just really good for all of us to think about this, but That's our PSA. Now we're going to go talk about good things.
I have a good thing.
Okay, what's your good thing?
I said on a couple podcasts ago that I was going to use 1 day of my 40,000 weeks and do some painting.
Yes, you did.
And I did, and I ordered the stuff, and I'm going to show you. And I said I'm going to show you, so that's why I'm doing it. And also, you have to be kind because
it's cool.
But it is kind of cool. So I have this little journal, right? It's a little art journal, and I bought it, and it's a course that I'm doing online. Yvette, somebody is her name. I'll put the links in the show note. But she takes you through, a bit of graphic design and color theory, and it's just fun. So I had some fun.
That's awesome. And so Roxanne and her daughters are quite creative and very good. Every time I need a sign made, it's like, one of your kids come over? Can you come over? Right? Like you guys are so creative. So are you though. Like that's cool. I want a big wall mural of that.
Yeah, let's give it some time. Yeah. We'll see. I'll get there.
That's funny. Well, I have one, except now I can't find it. Oh, travel. I know. I have a good travel one. So I saw it on Facebook, and it was just, I don't know, or maybe Instagram, and it was just this little thing, and it was a person who travels, and she was like, so what do you do when you travel? Like, what are the things you want to go and see? And I can say for sure, Paul, my husband, wants to go to art galleries, museums, that kind of thing. I like to go to grocery stores, and this woman wanted to go to grocery stores because you really get a sense, right?
Yeah.
Especially in like a very different country, but even in the U.S., we like going to Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's is fun.
But it is an interesting thing to think about. What are the things, like if we come home from a trip and I haven't gone into at least a little grocery store, I'm kind of disappointed because they have different spices, and they have things like, we take things like, I don't know, Kraft Dinner and Lipton chicken noodle soup mix, right? For granted here. But they have things where it's like, it's something that would take me like 5 hours to make, and they've got it in like a mix, right? And it's like in New Orleans, you can buy these things of the beignets that you can get at
really?
I'm going to forget the name of the place now. That's terrible, but the famous place, a Café du Monde.
Okay.
Right? You can buy these mixes, right? So it's like, but you can't really get them like every once in a while you stumble upon them.
Yeah.
But like grocery stores, and then you get to see what people are buying.
Right. Real people. Like the people that live there, not the people that are telling you what the place is like.
Yeah.
For money.
Yeah.
But the people that actually live there. I love that stuff. Yeah.
No, it's really cool. But you're a museum and art gallery and stuff too. You go to grocery stores.
Oh yeah, I love grocery stores. But yeah, I'm when my husband and I haven't traveled as much as Ruth and Paul have, but and our goal when traveling, until things are changing a little bit, but until my husband retired, it was always go somewhere, sit and lie in the sun for 2 weeks until all of the stress is gone. And that was a necessary thing for him at the time. But now I'm like, look, man, all you do is golf and tennis and
take naps
and read investment. Oh my goodness, that man is gifted at sleeping.
He's really good at naps.
Yeah, he is. But like his stress level has gone so far down. Yep. And so like, for instance, if we go to Hawaii, I'm like, oh, a lavender farm. That would be fun to go to. And he's looking at me like, I'm going to stay beside the pool. What's wrong with you? So he has, I think, not quite
He's not
embraced
quite
that
there yet.
Yeah. And I'm not, I have more work probably and stress now than I have in past years. But I also have there's a boredom threshold for me, right? I like to sit and poolside and read a book for sure. But then I need to get up and see the lavender farm, man.
Yeah. No, that's Paul. Like if we go to an all-inclusive or something, I have about 2 days, and then he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I mean, he reads and, he has fun, but it's also kind of like, come on.
Yeah.
Right. There's got to be something more to this. And I think there's a difference though, from when you go to explore. But even when I would go to it like an all-inclusive resort, I'd want to go, especially because mostly the all-inclusive resorts we go to, because it's easier, would be Mexico from this side of the country. But I want to go to a grocery store there. So that's, but there are, some vacations are restful.
Yeah.
And some are
exactly.
interesting.
Some are, this is how we kind of say it. Some are vacations and some are adventures.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you're going on a vacation, sure, absolutely. Yeah. Crash on the chaise lounge and drink margaritas and whatever. Yeah. But if you're going on an adventure, you're going to learn stuff. Adventure is maybe not the right word for what we're doing in Greece, but a little bit.
It is a bit of an adventure with lots of places we haven't been.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I think it is. And I think but I think they both have their place. Like I always, because lately anyway, and it's been like bigger trips, right? So people often are like, oh, I'm just going to Mexico. And it's like, are you kidding me?
That's a big deal.
It's awesome. And don't take it for granted. And also what you hear about are the the going with gorillas and the safaris and stuff, because it's harder to do, right? It's more expensive. It takes longer. It's all, you need more time. It's all the things. But it's like, don't, like, going somewhere and sitting by the ocean and smelling the breeze and the sun's on you. It's like, you can't compare.
Don't discount that. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've done, I mean, the staycation thing, people have done that, especially during COVID, where kids just laugh at us. Staycation, like, what's that? That's not real. And yet you can have a look. We did that one year with our kids where they all came out here and we went to the water slides and we went to the little golf thing up there, and we hung out here at the pool and did the things
as in the community, not at my house. I don't have
no. Although they love your hot tub.
Yes, that's
because there's things that you can do locally that you just don't do because you're working or you're tired or you're like, you know what, I just need to sit and watch Seinfeld tonight.
About it.
We are going to, I'm saying this now here because you've already mentioned it, and now I'm going to commit.
Yep.
We're going to do a food tour in Vancouver.
Yes,
and maybe we'll film ourselves doing that, and we'll chat with you, because you know what? We live 90 minutes away from a major international city that frankly terrifies me most of the time because of the traffic, but there's a lot there.
There is a lot there.
So much there, and we need to explore that sometimes.
We do, and we do field trips to Granville Island. I have to say, which is really
love
awesome.
Granville Island.
No, which is very awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Granville Island reminds me. I don't know if I mentioned it, but Della, our friend Della, who might be watching today, put us onto that book. So there you go.
There. Yeah, oh, that was a leap.
It was a leap, but she lives near Granville Island.
She does kind of live near Granville Island.
There's always a connection.
There is always a connection.
You can't always find it easily.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't always. It's not always obvious, but there is always a connection. Okay,
you know how frogs jump from lily pads. Sometimes they fall off.
But that's an adventure, right? When you fall, because I think maybe that's what we did the other time. Was we went from lily pad and then we fell into the swamp.
We absolutely fell into the swamp. Yeah.
But so the other thing that we talked about last time, and I have to watch this because we're switching it up a bit now. We're going to do only, 30, 35-minute podcasts, and then we'll do the next half the week after, because we've had some feedback that these are kind of long, and I get it. But
they're wrong. They're not too long.
We'll see. We're going to get you feedback on this and which ones. I don't think they're too long, but we're going to break them up. But one of the things that we talked about on the episode that will not be mentioned is
the swamp episode.
Yeah. Elmo, Elmo from Sesame Street said, "How's everyone doing out there on social media?" And got millions of responses of people who are hurt and disappointed and broken and afraid, and it was so overwhelming and so amazing, because here's this trusted character, right? And so what came out of that is people started talking to each other on the threads too, right? And they started supporting each other and saying, "Hey, I've been there. Here's the thing." And it was like this really amazing thing about destigmatizing, right? Mental health, because I think it only took one or two people to say, "I'm having a hard time," and it opened it up. And then I'm a part of this Facebook group called God, which is honestly full of atheists. Like, seriously.
Does that stand for something, or
no?
It's
just
supposed to be God?
He said he's decided he's God, and
I love
he's
it.
He's taken the Facebook account God, and he's there, and he's quite liberal-minded. So politically we align, and the people on there are all pretty good. And once in a while the troll gets in, and they don't last very long. But then God did that, and this is a really, I can't remember. There's like $100,000 or $150,000 in this Facebook, like 150,000 people in the Facebook group.
I was going to say dollars. What?
No, clearly people. I have money on my own. People in this Facebook group, and that's what he said. He said, "So Elmo did this. How about you guys? How are you?" Right, and it set off. And this is a really safe site. And there's another one I'm in called Heaven. That's quite similar. They didn't do it this time, but that's a really supportive site, and like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in here, and yet trolls come in and they leave pretty quick, because it is a community that's supportive. So I will put links in the thing, because God and Heaven are both like that, where you can go. We've had people come in and say, and say, I'm having a really hard time, can you just show me pictures of your dogs? Or I'm having a really hard time, here's what's happening. And people give them, and it's kind advice. Like, it's not, you say sometimes stuff on, especially like where a whole bunch of people you don't know can see your stuff. Like Facebook's a bit different because you have your friends. But if you say it on X, formerly Twitter, it can get nasty, right? And here everybody is so kind and so supportive, and they go out of their way. Like if somebody comes on because they've lost a pet, there are thousands of responses, right? Talking to them about how great it was that they gave that animal love. And like it's really, so there's more out there that's good, but I think we have to realize that we need to say to people, how are you? Right?
I love that it's connected to God and heaven, because it used to be that people could get that sort of support from their church.
Yeah.
And I don't think that is as common now.
Yeah.
For a lot of people, the church has become very politicized, and polarized. Yeah. And there's a lot of things. You for sure aren't going to go to church and say, my dog died, I'm really sad.
Yeah.
And get any support there. At least that's not my experience.
But the other side of that is, so God is a little bit, tongue in cheek, because I'm pretty sure, like most of the people on there, I believe in something. Some days I'm agnostic, especially when bad things happen in the world. But it is totally not religious. You know what I mean? And the same as heaven. It is totally non-denominational, but people can talk about, hey, I had this bad experience, and there's support. But it's really interesting that they've taken these iconic words, right? And yet it's just a community. Both of them are communities of support.
Which is ultimately the base value of the church anyway. Yeah. It's meant to be community. So when people find that in that arena, they go once a week on Sunday and they get that connection. That is fantastic. That is to me, the highest thing that it does is it brings people together. If it doesn't bring people together, they need to find it elsewhere. And something like this,
and they do.
Great.
Right? Because like to me, spirituality is one thing, religion is another. I think religion is man-made construct, but we're not going to get into that. So we're 32. We're gonna have to sign off soon. So what do we
really?
What's our cliffhanger?
Oh, what's our cliffhanger? So I'm a fan of birds.
You are. I know this about you.
I love them. Last New Year's, was it? Christmas?
Oh yeah, the seagull.
The seagull.
They had Jonathan Livingston man in their garage.
We did. We have rescued birds over the years. It's kind of an occupational hazard, but we work with a woman who does wildlife rescue in a city near us, and she called on either New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve, I can't remember, about a seagull that was we'd had a flash freezing rain situation nearby, and the seagull had gotten, like, its feet were kind of frozen to the ground or something. It was in kind of a desperate situation. So these people had freed it from the ice, but they're like, I don't know what to do with the seagull. So they called her. They had it in a box or something. And so she called Ray. And
who's her husband, the veterinarian.
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, sure, we'll go get it. We'll go get it and bring it, because nobody could drive. And our friend Elizabeth, who does the wildlife rescue, drives like a van with ball tires, and she should not be on the road in bad weather.
Yeah.
So because she pours everything into her animal rescue. So anyway, we're like, we'll get the bird to you, no problem. So it was Christmas Eve. That's right. So he goes and walks down the road, because it was very close to where we were, gets this bird in a box, and we've got it in the garage just overnight, and we're checking on it, bringing it water, whatever, doing its thing. And the next morning, we packed this bird up into the back of the truck with all the presents for our kids and the food that we're bringing to them. And we're heading into town, but we're going to stop off and drop this bird off first. So he's taking video for some reason. He thinks this is a good idea. And the bird gets out of the box. And the bird goes like running across the ice. Well, he goes running after it. He's like, this is a terrible ending to this story. I just let this bird go, and I don't know if it's fine. He wipes out. The bird wipes out. None of this is on video. This is what should be on video.
It's heartbreaking that we missed that.
It is heartbreaking. He comes inside. He's like, so I got a story for you. Anyway, so bird got saved, sent to Elizabeth, and released later on. It was all good. But that brings me to, do you believe birds are real?
To be discussed next week. So We didn't tell them what we're drinking. So we'll tell you that in the next one, because we're drinking the same thing now that we're splitting things up. But so what do we want, Roxanne?
We want more happy hours.
And less bullshit.
So much less bullshit.
Okay.